Hi, welcome to Elaine Enlightening's video blog number 64, and today we're on lesson 53 in Course in Miracles, which is another review lesson. And then I'm going to share with you a recent experience that I'm having, and it's all very interesting because I actually created this video blog with this message in it already, and it got garbled. The audio got garbled, and when I used it, did it on my laptop. And that hadn't happened before, so I thought that was interesting. And then I've been experiencing some physical discomfort over the last 3 days, and that's been interesting. So this message is something that there's a lot of resistance to getting it out there, which tells me that it's really important to move forward with it. So I'm going to read the 5 review lesson, just the headings, and then I'm going to refer to the 5th one to relate my story and what's going on with me right now. So the first one is, my meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. I am upset because I see a meaningless world. A meaningless world engenders fear. God did not create a meaningless world. My thoughts are images that I have made. Okay, so it's really interesting. When I was in Bali, I had a wonderful experience with yoga, and I've shared some about that in different places, but nonetheless, I felt very inspired to practice this particular type of yoga that I learned over there, and I call it a meditation yoga, and I really loved it. Well, anyway, I never was consistent with it from the time I was in Bali and learned it up until 6 days ago. I'd never done it regularly. I'd always miss one part of my routine, or I would miss a whole day, or I'd miss the morning or the evening, but I wasn't consistent. And I knew it was resistance. I sensed that. I learned to tune into that. And I know that it doesn't do much good to force yourself into any new thing. At the same time, I had other things going on, health stuff that I just was dealing with several things. So anyway, one day it just struck me very clearly that it's just about honoring commitments. So I'm very big on honoring commitments that I've made with other people. And I had been mulling over in my mind, the ego wants to kind of rationalize everything, and as I considered different aspects of this yoga practice, as well as my tapping videos in the morning for training, and realizing, these are things that I've felt very inspired to do. So it's not that there's something wrong with doing them, it's that I'm just resisting it, and I'm not being consistent. Something would always come up, whether it would be physical or whether it would be circumstantial, and I would use that as an excuse to not do one part of it. And then I'd get back on track and be sure, and really about every 3 days some kind of resistance would come up. And it just became clear to me that if I don't put my foot down with myself about it and stay true to my commitment to myself, then I'm not going to make the shift that my life is striving to make by doing this practice. So it wasn't an uninspired thing, it was just that I wasn't being true to my commitment, if that makes sense. So, and then I looked back, as this occurred to me, I looked back over this last 3-month period, and I could count 5 or 6 different situations where either the other person or myself, and myself most of them, had to break a commitment over something physical, and there was a couple of them were garbled communication, and one of them was there was actually 2 of them that were totally forgetting, and I attributed that to my health at the time, and all of it's just excuses, right? And I realized, well, that's a reflection right there. If I'm not willing to honor my commitments to myself, I'm not going to be willing to honor them with others either. And so basically I just decided I was going to do a 30-day, stick to this schedule, and watch what would happen in my life. And sometimes, when you learn a new practice and you realize this is something you want to do your whole life, it seems so ominous to say, I'm going to do this every day the rest of my life. and especially when you're planning to live a long, long time and always live. So I realized that it was necessary for me to say 30 days and to practice it twice a day. So this is day 6, and it's been pretty powerful. And sure enough, I made through the first 3 days, and then it definitely became a challenge to keep up with it. But I made that a priority to do it, and I have done that, and it's a commitment I'm making to myself. So it's instead of it being an ego thing, it's a thing where I'm honoring my commitment to my own spiritual and physical and emotional growth, because it's affecting all of that. It's a holistic approach to my own life. So the last lesson is my thoughts are images that I've made. And, I had, our thoughts are either hurting or helping, right? They're either coming from inspiration or they're coming from ego. And they do create the images in our world. That seems difficult to get if you're like me and didn't realize that, and can be a challenge to wrap our head around that, but it's really important that we get that message into our subconscious so that we are not making excuses for our life. And so I had a lot of different images of things that were happening physically and in my environment and in my situation, circumstances that seemed to be out of my control, but they weren't. I knew they weren't. And I realized if I was going to make the shift, if I was going to really make this big change in my life, I needed to be clear about my commitment. So the yoga is one part of it, and there's several things, but I didn't overdo it. I just made sure I had this, that I was sticking to all the things that I had committed and felt inspired to do every day, along with my tapping. Now I was making my videos every day, but to tap my videos for training was very important as well. And so anyway, I am moving through that time, and it's been very interesting to deal with that. And so I thought I would just do a short tapping round here at the end, where we'll tap on the whole idea that that's difficult to understand. That thoughts are images that were made, and that it's the ego that wants to convince us that it's not worth it to honor the commitment, and there's lots of excuses not to. Okay, so take a deep breath and start on karate chop. Even though I've had so much resistance to creating this video blog and to honoring my commitments to myself for my spiritual, physical, and emotional well-being. Even though it seems hard to honor commitments, I deeply and completely love and accept myself anyway. Even though I've had these headaches, neck pain, and a lot of circumstances that seem to get in the way of me honoring my commitment to myself, I deeply and completely love and accept myself anyway. Even though my thoughts are images that I've made, the ego is arguing with me about that one and wants me to stay a victim. I choose to be more powerful anyway. It's taken a couple of recordings to get this video made. It's easier to play small than to push myself forward. On one hand, it doesn't do any good to force it. What you resist persists. And yet there needs to be some action and follow through if I want to make the big quantum shift. part of me knows that I deserve to make this change, and that the blessings will be hard to count. The ripples will then go out. No wonder my ego is scared. I don't want to believe I'm that powerful. I love and honor myself anyway. Back to karate chop. My thoughts are images that I've made. Whatever I see reflects my thoughts. It's my thoughts that tell me where I am and what I am. The ego doesn't want to believe that. It's not what they taught me. The fact that I see a world in which there is suffering and loss and death shows me that I am seeing only the representation of my insane thoughts. And I'm not allowing my real thoughts to cast the beneficent light on what I see. Yet God's way is sure. The images I have made cannot prevail against Him, because it is not my will that they do so. My will is His, and I will place no other gods before Him. Amen. Okay.